Thank you very much for this very nice introduction. As you can imagine, it is an honor and also a pleasure being with you here today. I'm trying to set this off right after the coffee break, so I now hope that I have your full attention. As was already mentioned, I would like to give you a little bit of an introduction of how technology or how innovation can actually be used, as well in a sector that probably has not seen a lot of transformation actually over the last, I would say, 2,000 years, which is the educational sector. Nevertheless, we are now living in times that are clearly liquid, that are characterized by constant change. And that change not only happens at a society level, not only at the technology level, but at so many different levels that obviously have an implication as well on how we educate our students, how education should be designed, and more importantly, how our students, how our graduates should be prepared for the future. Allow me to give you a slight example for this. And it actually has to do with energy drinks. And it has to do not only with energy drinks, but at the same time as well with autonomous cars, with autonomous driving. Obviously, we all talk about autonomous cars, and we probably think about the implications this technology might have on the typical automotive manufacturers. Who will win? Will it be the same incumbents as before? Will new players come to the marketplace and actually gain market share over some of the established players? Nevertheless, we actually have to think as well about not only about the actual industry that brings forward the technology, but at the same time we have to think about as well about industries that are related, where we might have some sort of a domino effect. So now think of the following scenario. Think of autonomous cars becoming the standard. That essentially means you don't have to focus anymore on the streets. You can have a chat. You can actually read. You can even sleep by getting from one point to the other. But if that is happening, and if I actually can even have a sleep, it's certainly going to have certain implications on, for instance, roadside motels. Roadside motels that depended very much on drivers getting tired at some point in time and rather stopping over one night in order to continue their journey. Autonomous cars could significantly impact that particular industry. But also as well, the energy drinks. What percentage do you believe of energy drinks is actually sold at gas stations? Just think about it a second. It is actually more than 40%. More than 40% of the revenues of this particular industry, of the energy drink sector, is being generated at gas stations. Why? Because people get tired and they need something to push them up. They stop over at the gas station, maybe fill up their fuel, and at the same time, they fill up as well the adrenaline in order to continue traveling. Again, autonomous cars might make this superfluous. Why need an energy drink while driving if I actually can easily take a nap? So what we actually see in this particular example is changes in one industry might have a significant impact on many other industries around that particular industry, and sometimes these implications might not be as obvious. But when we think about education, we really have to think about as well what are the implications not only for industries, how they're going to get disrupted, but at the same time as well, what are the implications for talent? And more importantly, how we should be develop talent in the future. And we could argue that there is a war going on between humans and machines. I actually don't believe that is necessarily the case, despite the fact that many studies actually indicate that roughly 70 to 80% of the jobs that exist today might disappear in 20 years because they're taken over by machines. I'm actually more optimistic about this. I actually believe that innovation is going to have positive effects as well. It's going to create new jobs. It's going to create new industries. And more importantly, I think, it's going to help us humans become more efficient, do actually a better job in our day-to-day. But that obviously has implications for an educational provider. We have to think as an academic institution about what will be most likely the jobs of the future, and at the same time, what will be the skills in order to succeed in the future. So when we think about this, it is quite clearly when we look at the skills that we have to remember what makes us humans human, and have to stress this even more, such as creativity, such as empathy, such as negotiation, such as communication. All these skills relevant that probably machines will have a pretty hard time to copy or actually take over, at least for the next decade or 2 decades. And that, I think, as well, is going to resolve the first issue. I think it's going to help us as well to prepare us a future where we probably can't predict what the jobs will be around. So allow me to actually now make a little bit the link to what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about blockchain. Today we're talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about the technology, how it actually fires up innovation and how it might impact existing industries. And I would now take this to our home turf, take it to the educational sector, and give you 3 examples. 3 examples about what we actually teach, what we educate our students in, how we educate them, and where as well. So let me give you the first example. The first example is the so-called IE token. So we are coming from IE Business School, and we created an IE token, which is actually a cryptocurrency based on the blockchain technology. The idea behind this was not only to actually create our own money, to maybe become a competitor to some of the central banks. That was never our intention, but our intention was to achieve something very important. To educate our graduates in the blockchain technology, to help them understand what blockchain is actually all about, how it might potentially disrupt industries, and to some extent, when we think about the IE token as an alternative to existing currencies, that it actually might have even fundamental implications on how societies functions and how we, as leaders of tomorrow, can influence as well the shape of these societies. So we clearly have adapted what we're trying to educate our students in. And clearly, getting a fundamental tech understanding is absolutely relevant. And that is not limited to only the blockchain technology. It obviously includes as well artificial intelligence, understanding the rudimentary basics, at least, of artificial intelligence, but also virtual reality and thinking about the business implications these different technologies might actually have. The second example I wanted to give you is about the how. So for us, it is always important as well to educate our students in a meaningful way. What I mean by that is not only that the content is relevant, but at the same time that we educate them in a way that is exciting and that actually gets stuck in the head, that they remember these new information pieces, this new know-how, and that they don't lose it and only prepare for the next exam. And one critical factor is to make it relevant. Another factor is to make it actually truly experiential, which means I have to practice it in order to truly memorize it, in order to truly remember this. And here I actually want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the hosts of today. I want to say thank you to Oracle, because they got involved in a fantastic project with IE Business School, which is called the Tech Lab. And in this Tech Lab, our students had the opportunity to work on the blockchain technology and think about how the blockchain technology might influence a variety of different industries. They had the opportunity to work with experts in the industry to learn about the technology, to learn the basics about it, and challenged by them, reinvent some of the existing applications that exist in industries such as tourism, banking, insurance, and many, many more. Just to give you an idea, for instance, in the retail sector, one of the winning projects was how to use blockchain technology in order to track the entire supply chain, track products across the entire supply chain in order to make sure where the product is actually coming from and whether it's actually reliable. In the insurance industry, for instance, another example, another winning project was how can we use blockchain technology in order to track the behavior, the driving behavior of some of the customers in order to better adjust the pricing for the insurance coverage and potentially as well offer them a more personalized product and service. So let me come to the last example, and I already mentioned this is about the where. And I think this picture is to some extent as well a good indication that for a very, very long time education has not really changed. Because when we look at this classroom very much looks like a classroom you could have seen maybe 2,000 years ago, as I already mentioned. The only difference is, and you might have already picked this up, that everybody's sitting there with a laptop. So the question then actually becomes, if everybody's anyway behind the laptop, if everything is already digital, why can't we take the educational experience much more digital as well? And this is essentially the result. We now see the status quo has become that we now educate students to a large extent through online means. But obviously, if you look actually as well at this technology, it's actually quite boring. It's not really exciting. And this is something that we received always as a feedback. So as a consequence, we created the following innovation. We created something that we call the wow room, the window on the world. And the idea behind this is that by using this huge screen that is 13 times 5 meters wide and tall, our faculty members have the opportunity to fully engage with the students and create a learning experience that is much more immersive. But this is only the introduction, because I now want to link this back to artificial intelligence. Because what we have now done is we have now moved something that typically happens in an offline environment, we have now moved to a digital environment. I now have all the students connected in a digital fashion through video feeds. I even videotape the faculty member. So I now have turned that experience truly digital and I can exploit it. I can exploit it with artificial intelligence. And allow me to give you one example only, and I know it's going to sound a little bit like Big Brother. What we've introduced is actually an algorithm that learns. It learns to analyze the video feed of the students. It looks at their gestures. It looks how well they pay attention to the class. And you might be aware of this, that actually by looking at the gestures and the mimics of an individual, you're actually able to determine what is the emotional state of that particular individual. And that allows you also to determine whether that person is paying attention. So we're actually using artificial intelligence in order to determine, are the students paying attention or not? And as I said, it might sound a little bit like Big Brother, and you might say, oh my goodness, this is invading privacy. The good thing is, first of all, our students actually love it. And the most important thing is, it now allows us to become better. It allows us to optimize the experience. Because now we can provide the faculty with information about whether students are actually engaged, whether students are losing interest. And that provides important feedback to improve the overall learning experience. But obviously, I don't only want to talk today about blockchain, not only about artificial intelligence. I think as well, when we consider the educational sector, another important technological innovation is going to have fundamental impact on how we do business and how we teach classes. And that has to do with virtual reality and augmented reality. This is most likely how classrooms of the future will look like. We probably will immerse them fully into a classroom, no matter where they are. And the advantage of this is, by now fully immersing them into the cloud, the classroom in the cloud, is that I don't have to bring them together in a classroom anymore. I can now, linking back to what I said before, I can now make this experience truly experiential. I now have the opportunity to actually visit, together with my students, a factory plant, walk along the factory plant and see how the production can be optimized, what problems might exist, what are the challenges that factory workers face on a daily basis. And that is truly going to be experiential. It is truly going to be an immersive experience. So if you ask me as well, I believe virtual reality, augmented reality is going to be as well a major thing going forward when we think of educational providers. So I hope with this brief introduction I was able to give you a little bit of a taste of how technology, important, especially AI, blockchain, and virtual reality, hopefully will change fundamentally how we see education tomorrow and today. Thank you so much.